Anaya has a weak stomach. She's like, I'm about to throw up. So she walks off to kind of get some air. And mom says, see, that's why I want to tell you, you always getting emotional and stuff. Mom says that to Anaya. I haven't seen Anaya in God knows how many years. Anaya comes back up, like trying to harden her resolve to show her mom that she can take it. And they're like, no, we're not gonna commit murder, mom. We can't do that. And she says, back up, show them my legs. And you don't see it as the viewer, but they lift the blanket off of her, and they see her lower half, but you hear the sounds of embers burning, and they are mortified, tears coming out their face. What they're looking at, the remains of their mom, has kind of sealed their fate that they got to do this task in revenge. So Racine asks, how do we get to him? The mom says, when he got off trial, he found another woman, he found another family, he got married, you know, figure it out. So they leave, right? An- Anaya and Racine drive off. They're kind of shook, but Racine is like, I got to do it for God. I'm on this religious journey. And Anaya's just like, I don't know about this. How are we going to do this? And as Anaya is questioning God, Racine is getting more and more upset with Anaya for not believing God, not blindly following God, right? Racine pulls over and they're discussing how they're going to kill God. Maybe with a rock, maybe push him off a building, maybe poison him. And there's a specific moment where Racine says, well, what if I push him off a building? And she was like, Anaya's like, well, what if he grabs you too? That doesn't work. And that comes into play later. So they eventually somehow come into contact with the last woman that was seen with what's his face, with Sterling K. Brown. It was a woman by the name of Divinity. In fact, I think the mom gave her that name. So this woman named Divine or Divinity or something. They go and see her. She's in New Orleans, I think, or Louisiana. So they go pull up on the address. They're ready and getting mentally ready to commit murder. And it's a church. It's a house church, but it's a church. So they go into the church, just peeping. And there's this woman in like the vestibule of the house preaching to the congregation. And these are what we call holy rollers, right? Where people are putting on for Christianity. They're acting as if, the spirit is moving them. It's so much so it's a performance. It's damn near choreographed, right? One nigga is like, the devil in me like a motherfucker. Like he literally says that. And so it's like, if you get a chance to watch the film, really pay attention to this part because this tickled me as somebody who's experienced like church hurt and who has witnessed performative Christianity. It's wild. So they go in, and just like all visitors do, they always get singled out in black churches for some reason. And after the sermon, the pastor is Maxine Shaw, attorney at law from Living Single. She's in the living room eating ribs, licking her fingers, staring at the twins as if you ever seen a mob boss movie and the people walk into the room with the mob boss and they're like stereotypically looking at them. So there she's eating, someone takes the plate from her and she's got her bodyguard near her and they're talking to her about their dad, and she's talking about how she met them and how she met him, excuse me. She met him a while back and he made all these promises to her and even was there at the trial for burning their mom. She was like, yeah, you probably think I'm weird for being with him there, but he told me a different story, and he told me he'd be back for me, and I've been wearing white every day since, waiting on him to come back. So much so I kept everything he gave me. And she opens this curio and it's his jacket, some socks, some deodorant, some cream. And so they continue talking and she's like, yeah, I was pregnant. And she was like, wait. You're pregnant? You were pregnant with this kid? And she was like, yeah. And she's like, Ezekiel, these are your half sisters. And they look at each other and he look at them like in disgust, and it's like they seem of the world to me. So he's automatically off rip in disgust of these. So they get into an argument, and he come back to me, and she was like, I believe, this is Racine, that you've been digmatized and to believe in waiting on the nigga to come back. And it was funny so much so they get kicked out and they're running. And Racine is like, hey, Naiyah, look what I got. And it's the address book that their dad had. And the mom realizes that it's missing, and she sends her son to go chase him, and they escape, and in the address book is this card for a lawyer, Chuck something, I can't remember. It reminded me of topdoglaw.com, right? So they finna go see this lawyer. So they're on their way to the lawyer. They pull up to the spot. Racine has an idea. She's like, wait, it sounds like somebody getting beat up in there. And as you listen, you hear somebody getting their ass whooped. So Racine finds a piece of concrete. Naiyah's sock is a weapon. So the sock rock is the weapon of the movie. It's the MVP. So they go in, and sure enough, Chuck Bass or some shit, he's getting his ass whipped by a dom. I mean, she's piecing his ass up like mink, 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 mink. And there's a narrator stating that ever since what happened to him, he's been waiting for his death day. Naiyah and Racine's dad is going to come back and kill him, right? He's just been waiting on that since this day came. So he's been getting his ass whooped. So Naiyah and Racine is like, yo, can you help me? And he was like, oh, he can't talk. His tongue was removed in an unfortunate event. So he has to write on a board. And he's like, I know who you are. You should look into getting a trade and leave this whole mess alone. And I was like, how do you know? And I was like, you got the eyes that your dad got. And I'm going to be honest, he wrote more stories, and I'm just paraphrasing. The story of revenge, basically, you might want to be careful because you never know where the blood is going to land. That's your second warning, right? So Racine is like, you know what? I'll fuck you up if you don't tell me what you want. You're either going to tell me what I want or I'm going to drop you. And he was like, well, look like we've been waiting for this day. I guess you're the one that's going to kill me. So they square up the fight. Racine swings, hits his ass in the face with that rock sock, and he immediately stops. And he realizes, and I think they said he doesn't, and the narrator saying he realizes, or he can't realize, whether this is his most noble moment or his most cowardice moment. And he gives them information on where to find him. They were like, he was last seen here. I do want to let you know he has a family. Oh, and by the way, he has kids, boys, twins. So as they're trying to get there, they make a stop to pee, and they're discussing, what's going on. And Naiyah is becoming more and more not with it until Racine kind of gets in her head. And there's even a shot where Naiyah is sitting in the front seat and Racine is sitting behind her, almost as if she's the devil on the shoulder, hyping her up, like letting her know that you acting like a little punk ass bitch. And it's around here you get talks of Racine like manipulating Naiyah to keep going on this mission, because Naiyah really ain't with it. Naiyah wants a normal life. And Racine is like, don't you realize who robbed you of a nice life? Your daddy. You could have been the pretty girl. And there's a flash of her having sex with this boy. And she has no blemishes. She's gorgeous, because naturally the actress is gorgeous. And she's like emotionally manipulating her, because earlier in the film, Racine is talking to Naiyah about how Naiyah had a date with a boy, and through, I think, like a dating app or something. It's like online dating, but apparently they had met up and had sex, right? And the way they had sex is he likes it from the back. Now, Naiyah's like, I let him have it from the back. It isn't that he doesn't like the way I look. I just don't want to catch feelings, so I don't look at him, so he's getting it from behind, but nigga, we know. So she's looming this prettier twin, conversation throughout the film. Anyway, they stop to pee. They're having a conversation, and out of nowhere, this motorcycle pulls up with a hammer, right? And as they run, he runs to their car and sabotages it. He starts hitting the hammer, starts pulling hoses where they're stuck. And he has a motorcycle helmet on, but you could tell who it is, right? We're not dumb. So they have this whole chase and horror scene where he's trying to attack these sisters, but they eventually trap him in this room. And he takes his helmet off, and he's like, how dare you try to kill my daddy? And they're like, boy, what's wrong with you? And he was like, how dare you try to kill the one who gave me life? Him. Now, what's interesting about this is I have subtitles on with my films, right? Whenever I watch something. And you know, in the Bible, when it talks about God, the letters are capitalized, even pronouns. And even in this moment, when he's saying him, the H's are capitalized because just like women who see their mothers as God, he sees his dad as God. Little boy's dad, little girl's mom. It's a patriarchy. Anyway, so they escape, but they have to hoof it. So they're hoofing it, and they find some water and they're cooling their skin off because, you know, they're burning. Them girls be burning. And what out of nowhere, Naiyah, the logical one, the reasonable one, was like, wait a minute, twin. Don't this feel too good to be true? They snap out of it. They're on a bus. They get off the bus and they're in Texas somewhere. And they approach this beautiful mansion out of nowhere, right? Wonderful pool, very expensive looking house, luxury cars. It's gorgeous, right? And we get the rundown of the family that lives here. It's Sterling K. Brown's new family. It's the devil's family. It's mom played by Janelle Monáe and their two sons, twins. Janelle Monáe is preparing to leave. And I don't mean leave. She's prepared to escape. For some reason, today of all days, she's had enough. She's leaving because she goes through the same abuse that Naiyah and Racine mom went through. And so apparently they're showing how even the slightest thing being off a position of clothes or how clean it is can incite his wrath. So she's cleaning to ensure that that doesn't happen. So much so that to keep the house spotless, she pisses into a funnel, into a bottle, to not pee in the bathroom. It's almost like she's trying to preserve the sanctity of the house by not defiling it with her excrement. It's this idea of keeping the churches clean. And if you don't, there's a punishment. You know, I think about, the Ark of the Covenant and how the idea that no one was to touch it. And if they did, they would die. It was almost to that degree, right? So she's preparing her bag. She's supposed to be going on a trip, but she's not coming back. She's leaving these niggas, the kids too. And she realizes that as she's rolling her bags, that she doesn't have to do this herself. She screams, "Get out here!" And the boys come out there. One is like, "Hey, what's up, mom? Where you going?" She tells them they're going. And the other boy, the taller boy, the red pill boy, red pill twin, the Racine of the twins, is like, "Why you being all dramatic and hostile?" I can't think of the term he used, but she says, "Carry my bags to the car." They do so. And she's preparing to leave, never coming back. She saved up money over these years, $13 to escape, never come back. And as she's about to pull off, the youngest boy, right? The younger brother, the Naiyah of the two boy twins, say, "Hey, mom, just want to tell you I love you." And she grabs his face, and you could tell that's her favorite, right? Remember we had that conversation? And she pulls off, and, he innocently walks back in. The stepmom is pulling off. She's down the road. She hits the bend, and the two twins are sitting in the road, looking at her, staring at her, upset at her. She gets out and she's trying to shoo them off. And they're like, "Bitch, we don't want your money. We don't want your pearls." And she's like, "You don't know who he is?" And they're like, "Oh." She knows what happened, but she doesn't know the full extent, right? And they're like, "How could you be with this man knowing what he did?" And she was like, "I didn't know you were alive. He told me that he could never see y'all, and so he just moved on. Like I didn't know what happened to your mom. I know what happened to your mom, but he said it was an accident and he lost all of y'all." And Racine ain't buying it. Naiyah is like, "Wait a minute, she might be telling the truth because this nigga is manipulative." Oh, by the way, did I tell you that the reason that the fucking lawyer didn't have a tongue is because after the trial, when he got off scot-free, the lawyer tried to fake laugh because he was scared for his life, and Sterling K. Brown ripped out his tongue in the car. So that's where his tongue went. Anyway, let's get back to the present. So the mom is trying to explain to them, "Yo, I had nothing to do with this. I didn't know. He lied to us." Racine ain't buying it. She's all up in her face, telling them, "Yeah, bitch, you got all this life. My mom deserved this and you took it from her." And it's not a rational thought. It's an emotional thought. And Racine just wants blood. That's all she wants. She just wants her pound of flesh for God. She's a religious zealot at this point. So she's defending herself like, yo, no, it ain't my fault that this happened to you. You can't take this out on me. And this is where it turns left. She says, just because y'all ghetto ass, blah, 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 something said, and she spits on her. She spits on Racine. And it ain't just a little, it's like, yeah. And they take this moment to make a comedic moment like, bitch, we spitting. This hoe spit. And they get into a fight, and Racine hits her with the rock in the face. And that's where it stopped being funny. It was just, you see the blood, spurt out her face, and she runs to the back, and Racine keeps hitting her, keeps hitting her, keeps hitting her, and you can hear it. You see Janelle Monáe's feet kicking, and you just see Racine. And Naiyah stops her and is like, yo. And Racine's like, bitch, you better be glad she stopped me. And the thing I didn't like about this scene is it's distinctly said, you better be glad she stopped me. Whenever I hear that, I think that the person is still alive. But you find out that she's dead over there. So I didn't really like that part. That's just my little critique there. Don't put the part, you better be glad she stopped me, if she's dead. If you wrote off as dead. Anyway, they go to the house after this, right? Naiyah makes Racine promise that she's not going to kill nobody else. Because Racine lets it slip. This ain't the first time she killed somebody. Foster parents. Indirectly. They get to the house. The twins are there. They ring the doorbell. And the twins, or at least the red pill one, is like, oh shit, twins. The red pill twin think they're strippers. Right. The fresh and fit one thinks they're strippers. So now it gets a little weird. The younger one can tell something is off about this. His spider sense is tingling. Naiyah is like, nah, this ain't right. I don't like this. Racine is like, sure, we're strippers. Yep, we sure the fuck are. So this is where it gets even weirder. So they go in, they're checking them out. The red pill boy twin has to convince the younger twin to go along with it, to call the friends to throw a party. Now you find out that dad is on a fishing trip and won't be back until possibly morning. So this is their window of opportunity to have fun. But the twins hear this as well. So they're like, oh shit, dad'll be back here in a bit. We can kind of wait this out. So I guess we strippers, twin. So they go in and they put on the lingerie of the now deceased stepmom, which is weird. They put on the lingerie and come out and start dancing. And there's a cutback of when putting the stuff on. Racine, the prettier twin, is like, twin, why your titties look so big? And you also know Naiyah is like putting that makeup on. Naiyah killing Racine. Even with the burn, yeah, Naiyah look, yeah. And she's like, bitch, why your titties so big? And there's a pause, there's a beat, and they look at each other. Naiyah's pregnant. She's pregnant by the guy she had been having sex with. And she's excited, that she's about to be a mom. She'll know what to do. And it kind of plays into why she's been also so apprehensive of this mission, because she don't want to jeopardize her life being a mom, right? So we move on. They get to dances, and it's so uncomfortable. And then the red pill stops the show and it's like, hey, you keep dancing facing us, but you with the burns on the face, you gonna have to turn around. And the one thing about that is, in the very beginning of the movie, Racine does not play about her sister. Don't call her sister ugly if you know what's good for her. I'm not going to say what happened in the beginning of the film. Let's just say she fucked some kids up because of it. But what's interesting is she doesn't like when other people call her sister ugly, but she loves to play to the idea that she, Racine, is the prettier twin. It's like the idea of anybody else, can't nobody else call this nigga ugly but me, because that's my blood, which is still wrong. It's still manipulation. But anyway, when that happens, Anaya runs off because she's done with it. She changes her clothes. She puts her clothes on. She goes to the kitchen and kind of sits there. The younger twin walks in and they start a conversation. And he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, man. This ain't like my steez." And she's like, "Yeah, mine either." And they're having a dialogue. Meanwhile, Racine has intent. She's dancing like focused on him. And she whispers to bring him to the back. Right? So they go to the back. She sits her brother in a chair and she's giving him a dance. She gets behind him and she uses the rock to crush his throat. They switch back to Anaya and the younger twin. And Anaya lets it slip that, "Hey, do you feel awkward and out of place sometimes?" And the twin's like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Do you ever feel like your twin enjoys that you're in the awkward space because they get to be whoever they want to be? Meanwhile, you have to kind of go along with it." And he's like, so Red Pill Twin walks back. He's coughing up blood and he falls to the floor bleeding. Once his friends notice what happened, they bail. And so Anaya runs out to see what's up. Anaya's like, "Oh my God, Racine, you made a promise. You said you won't do it." And Racine's like, "He called you ugly. I wasn't going to do it, but he called you ugly." The younger twin is leaning on the little brother, on the older brother, like, "No, no, don't die, don't die." But he starts laughing. And he's like, "Oh." And so at this point, they run outside. Racine is trying to kill the little brother. Racine is about to murder him because she's like, "There can't be any witnesses." Anaya stands up, is like, "No, you're not about to kill him. No, he's innocent." Racine is like, "Ain't nobody innocent, nigga. You see who this is?" No. So they square up. They're about to fight. Anaya tells the living little brother to run. He dashes out as Anaya follows him to kind of protect him. They hide behind the bush and they have a moment where what twins do, they stare at each other and they start to read each other, but there's no reading. The little brother starts to strangle her. Racine's trust is validated. Anaya's naivety is exploited and he starts choking her. And then Racine shows up and is like, "Bitch, didn't I tell you can't trust these niggas?" And now it's a 2-on-1. So they're fighting the last remaining brother and he starts choking up and Anaya kills the little brother by stabbing shears through his back and dumping him in the pool. Right? At this moment, we're in the final act. Anaya drags Racine into the house, drags the bodies out of the body of the twin out of like plain sight, right? And guess who pulls up? Dad. Dad walks in. He walks in the house. He takes off his docker shoes. He puts on his slippers like Mr. Rogers would do. He walks into the living room slowly. Walks to the body of his son, stands there a second, walks to the pool, sees the body of his other son, grabs the body of his son, drags him to the body of his brother, stands there a sec, goes into the kitchen, grabs some meat out the fridge, grabs some condiments, grabs some bread. He starts making a fucking sandwich. Meanwhile, Anaya and Racine are under the table where he's making the sandwich. Dad sits down and says, "Come on out so we can discuss this." Anaya's terrified because this voice isn't malicious. This voice is actually kind but stern. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command, but there was no malice. It puts you in the mind of when you're in trouble, right? But your parent is more disappointed, right? She sits at the table and there he is with his sandwich and his chips. And it's here you see Sterling K. Brown's face for the first time. He doesn't look terrifying. He just looks like a suburban dad. And he says, "Who is first?" And she's like, "What?" He's like, "Who was first? Who died first?" And she's like, "Why did you do that to mom?" He was like, "No, see, we're going to go question for question. I'm asking a question, you'll ask the question, and we'll go back and forth. Who was first?" She says, "Your wife." He inhales, he exhales. It doesn't feel like it's a speck of remorse is there, like a speck, an instant of it. He inhales, he exhales, and she says, "Why did you do that to mom?" And he goes through his story. He tells her that it wasn't like that. I wouldn't hurt my girls. I did that to your mom because she wouldn't let me touch her. And it's the next question. And she's like, wait, why did you? He's like, question for question. And so they're going back and forth with these questions. And he's finding out who died, in what order. And then he tells the story of what occurred from his perspective. He said, she wouldn't let me touch her. I was a hurting man and I wanted her gone, but not y'all. What nigga would want to kill his kids? What kind of monster would be that way? And it's like, huh, this is complicated, right? Like as the viewer, you're torn because this is the first time you've heard his story. You've always heard what everybody else said about him. Kind of like in real life, when an absent dad is there, you just hear what everybody else's take is, but you're hearing it from the devil's mouth. So they continue on talking and they get up and they walk into the living room, progressing the conversation. She lets him know that she's pregnant and she's holding the rock in his hand, like she has the sock rock. And he grabs her hand, almost like a daddy-daughter dance, and he slowly walks her to the chair. And he's like, we can leave all this blood behind us. That's not what I intended. He's crying now. He was like, y'all are my babies, and this is not the life I had for y'all. This is not what I wanted. This was what you heard was the story of a hurt old man who just wants that old version of him to die, but it won't die because everybody keeps coming after me about it. And for a second, this story, you feel it. You're like, oh man, he's really trying to change, but he's being held to this horrible action, which he did, and some might say he may be able to be redeemed. Some won't, it's up there. He tells her, you can let this go right now and I'll let you go. And when you have your baby, you could bring him here and I'll bounce him on my knee as his granddad and we'll never speak about this again. And as she's going along with it, he smiles and slaps the shit out of her and says, you are always the weaker one, naive ass. Confirming again that she is indeed the twin who, because life has been so negative, she's hopelessly optimistic and therefore vulnerable. The fight starts. He slaps her, begins to choke her. Racine jumps in. It's a three-way fight. It's do or die. This is the battle, right? And there are no punches held. They're going back and forth with them. Racine jumps on his back. Naiyah hits him with the rock. It switches. Naiyah holds him up. Racine hits him with the rock. He's bleeding. He's losing. They beating his ass, stomping him out. Bitch, bitch, bitch. He's bleeding to death. He crawls past his two dead sons. He crawls to the bathroom. They follow him into the tub. They pour alcohol all over him, just like he did their mom. And they set his ass ablaze. With their mission accomplished, they stand there like proud of their victory. But at the last minute, the dad grabs Racine and pulls her into the fire, killing her. Naiyah runs out with her life, with her baby. And she stands there the entire time as the house burns down. It's nothing there. It's gone. The family is done. Dad's dead. Sister's dead. God, mom is dying. There's nothing left for her. So she goes about her life, telling them the great stories of being strong, being beautiful, and how awesome her auntie was. At the next scene, you see Naiyah holding her baby, looking up at the sky, acknowledging her sister. And that's the end. And a lot of people hated this movie because of that end. And I can imagine why. I can imagine why. This movie was not about getting the perfect revenge and having a happy ending. No, revenge stories are messy. Revenge stories end in death for everyone. Because you can safely say, because with Naiyah no longer having that psychic connection, half of her is dead. Now, if you want to talk about if she's happy her sister is gone, I think there's certain signs in there that shows that, Never mind. I'm gonna say that for another talk because me and my homie Remy are gonna talk about this one day, which will happen soon. But that was the movie, and I want to say this as a black male watching this movie. This movie was hardly coded for black men. This was a black woman's movie for black women, and I felt like a guest at an all women's conversation, like a women's roundtable on relationships with men and the horrors that families can post or pose, excuse me. This movie isn't asking for your input to dispute it. This movie is telling you, hey, this is what happens. That's it. It's not asking you to refute any of its points. It's not asking you to refute its views on Christianity, its views on patriarchy, its views on matriarchy, its views on sexism, its views on incest. It's just telling you what is. And I think the sooner that people can live with that, they can move on. And I'm also understanding that there are several different spectrums of black media, right? There's your I Love Boosters, there's your Fridays, there's your Atlantas, and then there's Is God Is. There's some of the surrealist horror, there's some comedy. It's all a spectrum. There's different ways to have social commentary. But this lane is mine. This is one I know this. Listen, Miss Aaliyah, I can't remember her last name. I think Williams, or I forgive me, the writer slash director of this. This movie I know was not made for me, but I'm glad I was in attendance. It gave me a lot of thinking points as a black man who is constantly conscious and watching what he says and do to ensure that black women feel safe around me, and I foster an environment for that. So thank you to the young lady who wrote, the playwright, the film, and directed this. This was all one woman. One woman. But anyway, this being boy, sir, this was my review of Is God Is. If I had to rate it out of 10, I'll give it a 9. Just alone off the conversations that can be had off of this and what it says and its comparison to Christianity. It's like if the story of Lucifer being cast out of heaven, right? It's kind of intertwined with the black family dynamic. It's the, well, what did God say? Well, what does the devil say? Like if you could talk to them, how would the stories differ? Who would be at fault? Who is right? Who is wrong? Because when God tells you something, who are you to question it, right? But at the same time, why aren't you questioning it? But anyway, I'm saving that for another conversation. Y'all be great.